Hello, welcome to the Smile with B. Miles show. My show is all about one's passion. I have a really passionate guest on today by the name of Jess. Jess? Is it Jess or Jeff?
Jeff.
Cut. No, Jeff Kleiser. Jeff, I can't believe this. You are on my show. Such a famous person, and I can say I have you here.
Wow.
It's so good to have you here, Jeff.
Pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's great.
So, I understand that you're from Williamstown, is that correct?
I live in Williamstown, yes.
Is that where you're from originally?
Nope, I'm from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. So what brings you here to the beautiful Berkshires?
Well, way back when I left college, I was interested in filmmaking and computer science. And I actually managed to get a degree in computer animation at Colgate University. And when I left Colgate, I worked in the field in New York for a while, and then I moved to Los Angeles and worked for another company. And then I met my partner Diana Walczak in San Francisco, and we formed a company to do high-end computer animation in Hollywood. And along the way, we ran into Doug Trumbull. And Doug, of course, is a Berkshire native, and he was doing a project here that he needed some help, and so we decided we'd come and work with him just for a year on the Luxor project, the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. And so we came here, and as soon as we got here and looked around, we said, this is really where we want to stay, and not Los Angeles. So, you know, we were having kids. We had kids at the time, 3 little kids, and so we said, let's bring them up in the Berkshires and not in Hollywood. So we made the Berkshires our headquarters and Hollywood as our outpost, and have been doing that since '92.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Doug and I are, really tight. Did you know? He is following you. See, I got you on first, and Doug later. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm really excited. Notice I kind of even fumbled over your name. That's how excited I am to have you on today. And you have some really exciting news to share with us, I understand.
Yeah.
Has to do with India.
About 2 years ago, I was minding my own business, working in the studio, and a call from a dear friend of mine in London came in, and she said that her good friends in India are making a science fiction movie, and they need a supervisor to come and help them. Visual effects supervisor is the guy that works in between the director of the movie and the visual effects companies to make sure that the director's vision is being executed by those companies. So they needed somebody to come and supervise, and they needed someone right away. So I talked with them. I said, well, what's this movie about? And they described this science fiction movie. It's the biggest Bollywood science fiction movie ever, biggest budget. The man who is the star of it is called Shah Rukh Khan, and he's the biggest movie star in the world, really. He has more than 1 billion fans in India and Asia. Nobody in the U.S., not too many people in the U.S. have ever heard of him or seen his movies, but he's done 70 movies in India, and he's like a god there. And so they explained what they were doing, and I got on a plane and went to India and spent 6 months in Mumbai shooting this movie, helping them with getting the visual effects part of it under control. We went to London for 2 months in the middle of that and shot there as well. And it was an international crew, the people from all over the world working on this project, and it was released in October of last year and broke all Bollywood box office records, a big success for the Indians, and a really amazing project. It was a real eye-opener for me because I hadn't been to India before.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Now, backing up, this famous actor.
Shah Rukh Khan.
Do you think he
SRK is how
would come on my show?
No.
Oh,
Nope.
jeez.
Frankly, I don't.
Don't you have that kind of pull? I don't know.
You'd
We'll
have
talk
more like
later.
getting Tom Cruise to come on your show than Shah Rukh.
I'm just trying to keep the momentum
Okay.
going here, you know what I mean? Now, backing up, you went to all these places, but London, can you explain why did you go there?
Well, the story is about a guy, this guy, SRK, Shah Rukh Khan, is a video game designer, and he's trying to win the respect of his young son, who's called Pratik. and his son thinks he's a real jerk. And so he asks his son, what kind of a video game would be interesting for you? And he said, well, I like the bad guys. I like the really evil guys. The evil guys should win all the time. And so,
I think they are.
So the designer creates this game. He goes and collects all the books about all the worst people in our history and rolls them all into one bad guy called Ra-1. Random Access 1 is the name of the bad guy.
Okay.
And the bad guy actually achieves, inside the computer, he becomes self-aware, and he figures out a way to get himself out of the computer and into our world. And he has a battle with the little kid, one of these video game battles with the kid, and the kid beats him. So he comes out of the computer to kill this little boy.
Oh, wow.
And the story goes on from there. The bad guy kills the game designer, and then they figured the only way to fight the bad guy is to bring the game designer, good guy version of the character out of the game. So now you have two digital characters left the game into our world, and they're battling one another to save. One's trying to kill the boy, the other's trying to save the boy. So you have these two virtual characters in our world firing missiles. And
So this is where the little boy wants to take back having the bad guy win.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That turned out to be a bad strategy. So
Yeah.
so it's all about the good guy versus the bad guy, and the visual effects supports that storyline.
That's fabulous. Now, has this played here?
It opened in Los Angeles and New York. I believe we're trying to get a screening at Mass MoCA in September, which would be great. We're working with the distributor to get permission to show it. Maybe in 3D, actually, stereo.
Oh, that'd be great.
Which would be fun, yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun. So you're part of this company that has a fabulous name. Did you come up with it? It's Synthespian Studios.
Yeah, well, we were back in the 80s. We were creating these characters. My partner Diane is a sculptor, and she was sculpting bodies, and we put them into the computer and tried to bring them to life. And just the idea of creating characters digitally was interesting, to us at the time. And it just fell out of our discussions one night. Synthetic and thespians, just that's what we named a studio.
Nice ring to it.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell us more about this experience in India. That must have been fabulous.
I got some slides to show.
You do?
I do.
I'm so surprised. Let's see some.
Okay. When I got to India, this was a hotel across the street from my hotel, and I got my long lens out, and I saw that there were these guys demolishing this thing with sledgehammers. 50 guys on the roof of this hotel with sledgehammers, beating it to a pulp to destroy it. And I said to the producer, well, we would just load this thing up with dynamite and drop it in 5 seconds. And he said, yeah, but this is cheaper. Because these guys get like $2 a day. This is the view out my hotel room, and I just added a couple pictures of different people I ran into there. Kids, everybody there was really friendly, very industrious country. Everybody has something going on, and a lot of joie de vivre there. There's amazing wealth and amazing poverty, all in the same neighborhood. This is a 26-story personal residence. A gentleman is just finishing it's a $2 billion home for he and his 6 family members.
Oh my God.
It's a staff of 250 people, 2 helicopter pads, and that's in downtown Mumbai.
Now, Jeff, is it my imagination, or is that like the Leaning Tower?
I was a little bit off. I was in a cab at the time, and I didn't quite get it straightened.
Just kidding.
It's not leaning, no. Okay. So anyway, the team, the visual effects team, they love cricket there, and they inherited that from the British. And they invited me to come out and play cricket with them. Of course, my batting stance is nothing like a cricket bat, and they found it pretty hysterical the way I held the bat. It was good fun. During the 6 months, I did get 2 days off in a row. I went up to the Taj Mahal, which is fantastic and should not be missed. Anybody going to India has to go there and see it in person. The amazing thing is that these stones have been carved out, and the marble has been carved in the shape of the stones, and then they get glued in with such high precision. If you look at this image, in the next slide, you'll see that that close-up is one of those
Oh, wow.
little sections there, and the place is just covered with these things. It took 20,000 workers 20 years to build the Taj Mahal. Anyway, this is Shah Rukh Khan, and what we're doing here is we're scanning his head and body with the laser system that allows us to put his body into the computer so we can get a computer-generated version of him. That way we can do all kinds of visual effects and make it look like he's actually splitting up into cubes or changing from one person into another. These video guys have special powers that are accomplished through visual effects. We had these suits made, these rubber suits, and we started shooting them. This is the bad guy's suit. This is a Ra 1 suit. But when we started shooting it, they really just started to look like rubber suits, and they didn't hold up very well. So along the way, we decided we would have to replace all these suits with computer-generated suits so that they would look cool enough. And in the clip that I'm going to show, you'll see how we accomplished that.
Now, is that the same process like Avatar uses?
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is Andy Gill. We did a lot of stunt work, a lot of chase sequences, and the guys would sit around and use these little cars to choreograph the high-speed maneuvers. We had cameras that were attached to cars. You can see this is called a Russian arm. The camera's on the right side. It's on a big boom, and that boom can swing around and go high and low and shoot live action footage. We had camera cars that were just bristling with cameras to shoot in all different directions, so we'd have backgrounds for all our shots. Cameras would be on quads, going down a railroad station. Helicopter cameras, all different types of things. I got to go up in the helicopter and shoot all around London with the space cam. Here we are up on top of a 90-meter crane, taking some aerial photographs. 90 meters is a very high place to be off the ground, I must say. This is a system we set up which has 64 Nikon still cameras that allow us to photograph things happening all at the same time so that we can have the camera appear to move along that track. See that trackway, the pathway of cameras. It's similar to the Matrix bullet time effect that they developed here in the Berkshires way back. We had 16 red cameras. These are digital cameras that we mounted on the train to shoot all different types of stuff. This is the main train terminal in Mumbai, and one of the scenes in one of the scenes in the movie that a train comes flying through this thing and destroys it. So we built a model of that we could blow up, and we shot with about 17 cameras, I think, of this thing being destroyed, so that we could, with visual effects and all the blue area is going to be replaced by other imagery. So it's a technique that we use for separating backgrounds and so forth. This is the director in the middle, Anubhav Sinha, and the director of photography is Nicola Pecorini. He's an Italian, very amusing fellow to have around the set. And he and I became good friends, and he taught me all his grandmother's pasta secrets at night, because we would go back after shooting and make pasta. This is Nino. Nino is a fearless cameraman who would get up on any kind of rig and do all kinds of crazy things. Here's Nino on the top of a quad, shooting handheld of Shah Rukh, who's dangling from the train there. We'll see a little bit more of this in motion shortly. Part of my job was to shoot reference photographs on the set, and this is like a wide-angle lens that I used to photograph in all different directions. So we would gather all the information about what the set was like, so that when we created our computer-generated elements, we used that imagery to light those objects so they would look correct and fit into the scene. So this is one of the wide-angle shots that I shot. Here's the director goofing around. And we helped them with organization and different techniques that they hadn't really used before. This is Tom Wu, who's also in the movie. He's one of the programmers. This is Kareena Kapoor. This is one of the biggest movie stars in India, and she became friends. She's like huge star in India. This image somehow got off my Facebook page and into the newspaper there, and it read in Hindi, "What the hell is this?"
Now, where how's your wife about that?
Back home, here's Shah Rukh in a scene where he's dressed up as a punker, and that's the little actor Pratik, who is the young star of the show. This is the bad guy, Arjun Rampal. He's also a big star in India. He and I became good friends as well. And there's the crew out on the trains. We had a lot of train-to-train photography for this big chase sequence. While I was there, I met Terry Gilliam in London. He and I had dinner. He's a wonderful guy from Monty Python. And unfortunately, the autofocus on the camera focused on the wine store behind us instead of on us. And then I guess they tell me that on your birthday, there's an Indian tradition that they smear your icing all over your face. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but they certainly seem to enjoy doing that to me. So there's the Italians and myself, and the director and star together. This was a sculpture we saw in London, which the director saw this and said, "Yeah, that's how I want the bad guy's face to break up." So we had to figure out how to do that, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay. This is our screening room here at Mass MoCA, and so in post-production, I would sit on the couch there on the left, and we'd have a Skype session, with video conferencing to India and to South Africa and to London, Germany, Vancouver, Los Angeles. All the different people working on the show would show me imagery that they're working on the screen, and then I could draw notes on top of the imagery. And I think this is really the way of the future, because you can work with people all over the world, and it's as though we're all in the same room, but we're spread all over the world. One of the scenes involves the bad guy getting blown up into his component cubes. He's made up of these little cubes, and then the cubes form themselves back into him. So this is a photograph I took at the set, and we're trying to make computer-generated asphalt. And asphalt, as it turns out, is pretty tricky to render realistically. So this is a close-up of a little metal cube, and here's some computer-generated cubes alongside that. It's the same cube, but we're just sort of testing to see how we can make these cubes look interesting. We put circuit board kind of a motif on them. And one of the things we wanted to do is have the cube appear to be reflective. So this is a first test where we're reflecting. The background imagery is imagery I shot with my camera of what the set was like. And then that's just a cube, the camera rotating around the cube, but you can see it's reflecting the environment. So it has kind of a shiny feel to it. Then we got more involved in creating the motif on the cubes and matching them in. And then we wrote software that would enable us. We wanted these cubes to look like they were all finding their right spot in the body. And each cube has its own unique spot in the body. And so we wrote software that the cubes are going to try to negotiate to find their way to their destination. And while they're doing that, they have to negotiate. They can't pass through one another, so they have to bump into each other. So this is our first test, and it has this kind of very weird
look. Yeah,
as though they're alive, So the next thing I wanted to show is a little clip from the movie.
Oh, great!
This is how we put some of these scenes together, and it has audio, but I think we can probably talk over the audio. I'll just maybe explain what's going on. What you'll see here is the different layers that we use to create the final composites. There's a process called digital compositing, where the original footage that we shot and other layers that we create are all put together into the final format that goes into the movie. And what this reel does is it'll show what those layers look like before. See, this is the computer-generated suit, and you'll see that's the rubber suit, and that's the computer-generated suit. So that's what is composed of all those different layers, and then we composite them together so that we create a superhero. There's the rubber suit, and there's the CG suit, computer-generated suit. So we had this wonderful day where we were launching these cars up into the air in London with these very powerful ramrods, powerful enough to launch a car up into the 100 feet up into the air. And this is that bullet time sequence that I told you about, where the camera is going around it. So they're all computer-generated weapons, they're guns and so forth. You can see all the different layers that we added together to make it look right. A lot of the train footage was shot on a blue screen stage like this, and then we added in Mumbai backgrounds and city footage from different layers, different elements.
How big of a cast do you have?
Cast is probably about 35 or 40 people. In this case, they wanted to have this particular building in the background, but it wasn't convenient to where they were shooting it. So we photographed the building and then we just put it all in digitally so that we could shoot where we wanted to shoot and then insert. And this is the destruction of the train station. You can see all the different layers that goes into creating that.
What was he just plugging in?
That's like it's a plot device where he gets his power. Inserts that into his chest, and it's one of the things in the storyline that gives him powers and so forth. There's an interesting shot where he runs through one train and grabs onto the other train. That's the train. That's the train his girlfriend is inside. So you can see all the work that went into creating the different composites to make it all look. Impossible things happen that we couldn't possibly shoot. We shot whatever we could shoot, but here, for instance, those cars are computer generated, and the background train is all comes out of the computer and then matched to create the desired effect.
Now, can you reshoot parts of this? I mean, it seems like it's a one-shot kind of deal.
We've reshot. We've gone back and reshot elements, and then if something doesn't work, we can go back and shoot it and then do it again. These are some of the transitions that we did to creating these weapons within the game, and the destruction of the.
Amazing.
And then here's at the end, he falls
that's
apart.
great.
He breaks into
cubes
and then into dust.
That's
so
great.
That's one, and then the other one has that sequence that I told you about, which is where he. Here's some additional footage of of the process of shooting the live action. So this is a camera on a dolly, and Shah Rukh is running through the train, dives out through the other side, and then we composite that with other elements. This is Nino shooting. We're just running with the camera. Nino would get in between these trains going 40 miles an hour and whizzing past them, and you'd get these beautiful shots. But I would never do that. This is the time slice sequence, where we set up all the cameras, and we programmed them to shoot about 1/100th of a second apart. So the event that we were shooting, which is Shah Rukh and Arjun jumping up in the air, could be kind of frozen in time, and the camera could be moved around them while they're. See, that's what. Now you can see the virtual cameras moving around those 60 still cameras, and you get that kind of an effect. It's our model, and we had. The thing about the model is we spent, 4 months building it, and we're going to blow it up on one day. You have one shot at it, so we had 17 cameras, so we have it from every possible angle, and we actually wound up having to use a lot of computer-generated elements to make it look right, because the model didn't really fall apart the way we wanted it to.
And it's a commercial like that.
Yeah.
Where the pirate's boat explodes.
Yep.
And the director says, bigger, bigger. To redo it.
Right.
We can't really do that with a model. It took you how long to make that?
About 3 months to build the model, and then one day we blew it up. So these are the kinds of different effects that we put together. This is the one where the face wanted to be broken up into.
Okay, yeah, like this.
And then it heals itself while.
Oh, that's incredible.
He's got his glass shard stuck in his face.
Now, I have to say, Eugene Mamet, he had come up with that whole kind of similar thing
Do you mean the Predator?
Thank you.
The Predator effect? Yeah, that's an optical technique. It's
Yeah, optical, but
quite
it's
quite
kind of
different. It has a
interesting to
yeah.
see where it's gone from that concept.
So this next scene is where all the evil of the bad guy comes raining down.
Wow.
It gets sucked into his body, and then he sort of decides that he's got to kill himself to get rid of the evil, to rid the world of the evil. So that's why he breaks up into dust at the end of the movie. So we wrote software to be able to do this complicated
That is
stuff.
incredible.
And then we map the footage that we shot onto
Look at
that geometry, and then we could make it do all this kind of
That's
crazy
incredible.
stuff. Now, the next scene coming up is the one where the bad guy has been blown up, and his cubes have been have landed on a fresh road that's being created. So the cubes get pushed down, you see, into the hot tar. And you think, okay, the bad guy's done for.
Right.
But after they turn this electric sign on, the cubes can use that electricity to pop out of the pavement and reform into the bad guy. So this is a major sequence that we worked on at Mass MoCA for a good four or five months, trying to make it look exactly the way we wanted it to come together.
That's incredible.
It's kind of like the Terminator, Terminator 2, when the guy
Exactly.
forms out of the, except
Right.
in that case it's chrome liquid. In this case, it's these little
Right.
cyber
Just when you think
cubes.
He's gone. He's back. That's amazing. I love the cube effect, though.
Yeah, they have something very lively about it.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Took a lot of computing time to do this. So very, very.
I can imagine.
We didn't even figure out how many hours of computing time it took us to do it. So ridiculous.
How many cubes to make one?
300,000 cubes in the body.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great concept. So who actually thought of the concept?
We all work this out. A lot of it comes from Hollywood movies. They like to do a lot of things they've already seen before. We try to encourage them to come up with new ideas and experiment and try different things. So, and then this
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, when we made him look younger. This is from the Surrogates project. We matched his movement, and then we could change his face from looking like this to this, this to this. So we got rid of his wrinkles and his double chin and made him look, 35 instead of however old he is now.
Now, can you do that with anyone?
Sure.
We'll talk later.
Right. And then the only other thing I have is a test we did projecting onto a dome. I think in the future there's going to be more opportunities for projecting onto big, huge spherical domes, like hemispherical domes. So you're completely enveloped in the imagery. And this is coming up is a little test we did just to show that we could project imagery onto a stereoscopic dome. We had to write special software to be able to do that as well. But the imagery looked fantastic inside the dome, and we're hoping, like right now, one of the projects that we're getting involved in is designing some ride attractions for a Chinese theme park that will be projected onto a dome. So this is just like the front section of the image. The image wraps all the way around to 180 degrees, and it's all computer-generated imagery that we did just as a test, so proof of concept for this one particular system. And so we're hoping to get into more projects where we can, have immense scenes of stereoscopic imagery and visible in all directions for theme parks and specialized projection venues where, we're not in a movie theater anymore. We're in some kind of a special ride attraction where you can make use of novel projection systems and sound systems and spray the audience with water and whatever else you can think of to make it look cool.
Music is playing as we speak. I mean, you have a whole separate department for that, but that's got to be fun to match up music with.
It is, and we sometimes work with composers. We've done our own music tracks for some of our commercials and so forth. That's kind of fun. But certainly sound is half the battle.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, sound systems in movie theaters sound good, but I think in the future we're going to see more three-dimensional sound systems where you're having the imagery on the scene, on the screen, coupled with the sound in the theater more closely, so that it'll be more of a visceral, exciting experience.
How fun.
Yeah.
You're excited just talking about it. When
Well,
you do something like that, that's gotta be...
The interesting thing is that every year, you know, in this particular field, there's so many people out there designing new software, being able to do new things, and there's such a market for the product that people are putting lots and lots of money into what is next year's movies going to look like? You know, what's the cool thing that we can impress people with next year? Because every year you have to keep raising the bar. So it's very challenging and very costly, and you know, it's one of the real challenges. You know, as the technical difficulties become solved, you know, with computer systems and software, then you have to start thinking, well, what is my message going to be? You know, what's the content going to be? And I don't have any of these limitations anymore. I can pretty much do whatever I want to do. Well, what do I want to do? You know, why is somebody going to want to watch that? So that's more the discussions that we're having now is what do we want to do, not what can we do? Because we can do almost anything now.
Well, again, the movie good did prevail, even though the storyline was going to be something completely different.
Right, right.
So that's good. So you mentioned, have you been able to use the Massachusetts Film Tax Credit Program?
In fact, we have. For the last 3 years, we've been able to take advantage of that, and that has really helped you know, us competitively, because you know, we have Canadian companies that get 35 to 50% rebates. And we're you know, bidding against those companies. So the Massachusetts tax rebate has really helped keeping our costs reasonable, and we look forward to continuing to work with Massachusetts. There's also tax incentives available in New Orleans now, very aggressive tax, and New Mexico as well. So you're seeing companies being set up in those states as well to take advantage of that. So yeah, it's an important component.
Absolutely. Now, you're being very modest, Jeff. I just want to backpedal a little bit, because I understand you won a national award.
Oh well, yeah.
Oh well, yeah.
the Indians have what's called the National Award, and they give, you know, it's sort of like their Oscars. So their best movie, their best picture, their best actor, their best special effects, and our film Raw One was just awarded the National Award for Best Special Effects. So we were all pretty happy about that.
Absolutely.
And you know, but it's an award that's shared among 800 artists that worked really hard for many months to get all those shots done. You know, when we found out we had to replace all those suits, that was a real that made the project much more difficult, because on each scene where either the good guy or the bad guy show up, you have to match every part of their body on every frame precisely. You know, it's a lot of hand labor matching. What's called match moving, and we had hundreds and hundreds of people just doing frame by frame, adjusting the 3D geometry to cover over the rubber suit, and then we could, you know, texture in with the CG suit to replace it. Very, very hard to do, and very
It's sort of like going back
time-consuming.
to Disney when they had to do every frame when they made like
It's
Mickey
very
Mouse,
much like a cell animation kind of thing, very labor intensive, and places like India and China are the places where that sort of work can be done, because it's so much less expensive there than it is here. So they have armies of people. The other area that they're very busy in India now is in converting regular 2D movies into 3D movies. So they'll take a movie that's already been shot. You know, these days, if you want to make a 3D movie, usually you get two cameras, and you have a left eye and a right eye. But they've developed now ways of taking a monoscopic image, or you know, a movie like Gone with the Wind, and going in and creating a simulated separate camera view of that scene, so that when you watch it in a movie theater with glasses on, it looks like it's 3D. And they've made a lot of very impressive development in that area, and a lot of the films that are coming out now are being shot regular 2D and then being converted into 3D by these armies of people in India and China. Hundreds and hundreds of people that go into each scene, and they say, well, they figure out, well, what part of the scene is closest to the camera, and they paint that a certain color, and then this is further back, so they paint that a different color, and then this is the background, and then the computer uses that information to offset the imagery so that it makes a left eye and a simulated left eye and right eye view of it, so it makes it into a 3D movie. So that's a big business for a lot of companies in India.
Amazing. You mentioned before the show that you're going to be going back to be like in a teacher mode?
Well, there's a couple of opportunities. One is going back to produce another film in India. A friend of mine he has a script that's about, the story's about an Indian scientific trip to the moon. They have a team of astronauts that goes to the moon in about 2020 or 2030, and he wants to make this film that would involve obviously lots of visual effects, a lot of zero gravity work, you know, because up in space, of course, everything has to float around, so they need help with that. That's a project we might get involved in. I have been teaching at Williams occasionally. You know, at winter studies programs at Williams College. I teach a course in computer graphics there on Januaries.
That's a nice place to teach.
Yeah.
My stepson graduated from there.
Oh, great.
Great school.
Yeah.
Great school.
Super.
I didn't realize they had a program in that. There.
Well, it's a sort of a thing I
formed?
teach. You know, the problem is I never know when I'm going to be available in January. You know, my schedule is very hard to tell whether I'm going to be even in Williamstown.
Right.
And in fact, this last year we did the course, but I had to be. It's only a 4-week course, so the last week I had to be in Los Angeles for a meeting. So we just set it up so I was able to you know, by Skype, I was able to teach the class from my brother's house to our house, where the students come in our screening room, and can sit there and have a regular, you know, I can look at their work and they can show me what they've been up to. And yeah, it's fun.
So where do you think you're going to be going from here? I mean, this seems so like you've gone leaps and bounds from what we're used to. So what's next? Like you said, I mean, how do you top what you just completed?
Well, I think the real challenge for us now is going to be getting into creating content rather than doing visual effects for other people's movies, to actually create our own movies and become involved as producers. And my partner and I have written a script that we want to produce. My brother is a film director, and he and I have 2 other projects that we're trying to get funding for right now. So I think it's transitioning from a work-for-hire visual effects company in Williamstown, which is a difficult place to operate from. There aren't any clients here. We have to work, you know, with our Los Angeles clients or worldwide clients. But it is a great place to work, and so you know, we're using the internet and the high speed, you know, connectivity that we have here, we can work with anybody in the world. But I think our real goal is to start to produce our own movies.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So, and you need some people sort of like me?
Well, what we really like to do is have a team of people set up at Mass MoCA to do a large project. You know, we had about 85 people at one point when we were working on the Spider-Man ride and the Monsters of Grace, which was an avant-garde opera we did a few years back. We had 86 people in the company, and that was pretty exciting, but pretty spooky also, having that many people running around doing.
Oh, I bet. Now, do the local people, when they pass you on the street, do they know that you're doing all this cool stuff?
Oh, I don't think so.
They are gonna now.
Well, we have a lot of very talented people from North Adams and Williamstown that work for us, and they've been hanging in there through thick and thin. You know, we work with most of them on on the Indian movie, as well as John Nugent's company down in Pittsfield, the Sandbox. They were involved, and wherever we can get local talent, we certainly try to do that first, and then we bring in people as needed. We brought in some people from Montreal and Germany, and then the whole team in South Africa we worked with without ever meeting them. It was always up on the screen. We never got there. They never came here, but they were very, very good. They really were good at following instructions and getting stuff done. So it was exciting. Exciting to work with people all over the world, and now that you don't really need to be anywhere in particular, you can be where you want to be, which is here in the Berkshires. You know,
it's amazing what you're able to do. So with that being said, you had mentioned Mass MoCA earlier. What do you foresee happening physically in that space?
Well, if we were able to get our big project off the ground, we would take probably the whole top floor of Building 1 and Building 2. That's where our space is right now, with the screening room and offices. So there'd be room for as many as 150 or 200 artists, you know, and that's what we'd really love to do is bring them in to get the film into pre-production, which is where we design everything. And then for final production, we probably, since the Massachusetts tax program is only allows you to claim benefits in a 1-year period, we can't make a feature film in a year. It takes longer than that. So we would likely have to do the pre-production here and then take the whole project and go somewhere else to finish it off. I don't know where that would be. But to do a whole feature film, it really requires 300 or 400 people working for 18 months or something. It's a huge undertaking. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how do you find time to actually come up with the concept of the next movie you want to do?
Well, you know, we try to find time when we can write. It's very difficult, you know, because with kids and dogs and business to run and travel, we don't really find. To finish off our script, we actually had to put our our cell phones down and get in the motorhome and go off for a week camping, so we could just focus on that, because otherwise we couldn't really get anything done. But we're always reading scripts. People send us projects to look at and evaluate whether they're in the right place for for what we want to do, and try to find the right. One of the projects that we're very excited about is a feature film about the life of Nikola Tesla, who was the inventor from the 1890s to 1940s that invented alternating current, the power system that we use, and radar. He was a phenomenal genius inventor, and nobody really knows him. Nobody really knows. He was sort of covered over in the history books for some reason, and it has to do with what he was inventing and what he thought he could create, and what people didn't want him to create. And it's a very intriguing story, and that's a biopic that we're trying to get off the ground. We have a great team of writers that have written a great script. We have all kinds of ideas about the visual effects, because this guy was able to imagine a machine in his head, and he would go into his head and have these visions, and he'd adjust the machine and see how it worked, and then make changes until he got it working in his head, and then he'd say, okay, now I can build it. And he was this kind of level of genius. So part of the movie, we want to go inside his brain and see him creating all these electrical components and testing them, and be fun to go back to New York in the 1890s, to create that Gilded Age New York, the Madison Square Garden, and all those incredible characters that were in New York at the time. So that's one of the projects that we're really pushing now, and we think we have one of the major Hollywood producers signed up to get behind it. So I think it's got a pretty good chance of going into production this year.
So exciting. And to think that all of this is going on while we're just doing our normal daily routines, How does it feel? Like, can you vacation? I mean, can you shut down?
I haven't really been on a vacation for a number of years, just because it's always, well, I mean, when I go on a movie, shoot, it's kind of
not a
like
vacation.
it's not a vacation. It's not.
No,
It's nothing like a
no.
vacation actually. But you're in a different place and you meet different people
Yeah.
and you're having a good time.
You're
I
seeing
don't think of it as work because
you
it's
love
so.
It's your passion.
It's a passion. Yeah, yeah.
Now,
no,
do you-
haven't vacationed in a while.
Do you see yourself making these little, like doing the marketing and putting it into physical forms of these characters like Superman? I mean, you can buy toys and gadgets and.
I
another
don't.
whole
I don't
area.
imagine that there will be Tesla dolls.
You
But who
don't
knows? But who knows? Who knows?
You don't know.
You can't tell, no. But that's not the marketing side of it is that's somebody else's problem.
Somebody
Yeah,
else's.
I don't really
That could
get
be
too involved in that. It could be very lucrative. I mean,
absolutely.
George Lucas was brilliant in that he kept all the he was able to keep all the marketing rights to his Star Wars characters
Yeah.
out of the deal. So he kept he and one of his other producers, but that became the basis of his fortune, And if he hadn't,
Right.
if he hadn't been able to do that, all that money would have gone into the studio system and
Oh,
been squandered,
absolutely.
So.
But that's something you might want to think about.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, the only problem I think is when people start designing shows based on the merchandising, that their
Well,
goal
no, that's
is to
gotta
sell
be
sell the toys. Then I think
No,
there's
no.
something missing in the creative
Absolutely.
process.
But that could be another layer.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be there. So when
The
you're
story has to
old-
rule. The story has to be great. If there are ancillary opportunities,
Yes,
that's great.
absolutely.
That's super.
Now, while you're traveling, what is Diane doing?
Well, she's our main a designer. She's designing concept art for projects coming up. She'll be very involved in the Chinese theme park project. There's also a Korean ride attraction, series of ride attractions that we're bidding on right now that she would go and do design work. Also, she's yoga and jazz piano. She practices 4 or 5 hours a day of jazz piano. We have a little trio that we sometimes play together. And
Oh, stop it.
my son plays stand-up bass, and they're recording this fall, this spring. They're going to be recording in Saratoga.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
Now, how old are your children?
My daughter just graduated from Berkeley in astrophysics. She's going to go to
Shabby.
Caltech for 6 years. She's 22. Roman's at University of Miami studying computer science, computer programming, and Jackson is our thespian, who's
I was going to ask you.
Shakespearean actor here in the senior year at Mount Greylock. So,
Wonderful. So do you see him following in your footsteps?
well,
Would he be the
he
one?
seems to be really smitten with the idea of being on stage, which I never did. So I don't think he's going to be sitting in the back room on a computer like I am. I think he's going to be out there with a sword,
Okay.
There
you go.
doing his Shakespearean acting.
Riotous
He loves it,
youth.
and he's very good on stage. He's surprisingly,
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
He's watching your movies, and
yeah.
that's great. So what's next? You've talked about, all these other things that you're working on, but what immediately, when you leave here, what are you going to do?
Well, I have a company that I'm forming with some friends in Los Angeles, and we're having a video conference tonight to talk about how to set it up. The idea is that all these people that I've run into in Los Angeles have projects that we all would like to see them produced. My area of expertise and Diana's is in visual effects. There's another person there who's a marketing expert, and there's another person who writes applications for cell phones and personal devices. So each of us can make use of, I need a marketing guy, and I need somebody to write apps, and I need somebody to do live action, and they all need visual effects. So we have about 5 or 6 projects that we're all trying to produce, and also some of them are funding sources, people who have money that want to make movies. So we figure we'll make this little company. We each put our projects into the company, and try to help each other make some movies. Sort of like a mini studio without all the largesse and bureaucracy of a studio, just some talented people who can help one another make movies. So that's what we're trying to get off the ground tonight.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. I could just I want to see this movie, so
I think, yeah,
When's it
as I
gonna
say, I think it'll be at Mass MoCA sometime in the summer, maybe,
Okay.
maybe in September, I think.
September.
Yeah.
And then you'll be making DVDs to sell after just the normal.
I can't sell this movie, that's, I don't have any
You can't,
rights.
but I'm in general. I
In
mean,
general.
it's going to be out there for us.
Yeah,
to,
yeah. I'm sure it's available on Amazon right now. Raw One Blu-ray is out on Amazon right now. But we want to screen it in 3D at Mass MoCA in the big theater. 600 people, and
That's going to be
make a
great.
big event out of it, and invite all the Indian expatriates from all over New England to come and watch it. And I was thinking I could even maybe get Shah Rukh to video conference into the screening,
Wow.
which would be
That
fun.
would be great.
Yeah, if I can get the big guy to show up.
Hey, why not?
All
You're
right.
buds now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Jeff, I am so glad that you came on the Smile
it's
with Me
been a
Miles
pleasure.
show. It has been tremendous, and hey, let's make a toast to
Cheers.
your next big film. Can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for tuning in to the Smile with Me Miles show. We'll see you again next week. Bye now.